Now remember this. January 8th, 2021, 7:55 p.m. They're going to talk. You can't hear them.
Or more. These two different.
That's your blanket.
Hey guys, if you're watching, the FBI entered the Cordell Hall building earlier this morning. They are on at least two different floors here in the building. We know they're in three different offices. One is supposed to be former Speaker Glenn Cassida. Another one may be Robin Smith. And then I'll turn down the hall. You can see the media is all here.
Now ask yourself a serious question, people. Since when does the FBI tell the media what they're doing in real Constitution, in real man's law? Since when does the media get to predict, talk about any kind of case during an investigation as it's taking place? How many drug dealer busts have the media been called before they go do the bust? How many mob cases did the media get called when they were sitting there staking them out? Is that legal? Is that legal to have the media? Is it professional? Is it proper? Is it even logical to have the media there as they do a raid or an investigation? Probably not. And I could think of 1,000 reasons why. But when a video comes out like this, what do people do? They focus on what's going on and what the media wants you to focus on. Hence why they're there. And the subconscious mind is on autopilot when you're in emotion. And then the logic doesn't get to work. It's like when you get in an argument with your loved one, family member, whoever. You get all irate, arguing, and you end up saying something that you probably shouldn't have said. But as soon as you leave the room, the argument, and a minute or two goes by, what happens? Oh, the logic kicks back in, and you say, why did I say that? Well, you said that because you were on subconscious autopilot and your logic wasn't working. And that's exactly how they manipulate millions of people across the globe today. Because you don't use logic. You don't think critically. You haven't even been taught that 95% of the day, the human brain is running on autopilot. Subconscious programs that have been installed just like a computer when you were a kid from around 0 to 7, you're downloading like you're installing Windows 7. And until you learn about the human brain and how it works, and actually know that you might need to upgrade the software in the brain, then you will permanently be stuck on Windows 7. It's that simple. So your massive insurrection, it's so-called worse than 9/11. Or how about the other one the other day that your buddy Sleepy Joe was saying about Martin Luther King? That Floyd was worse than Martin Luther, like was more anything than Martin Luther King. I forget. It's so stupid. I even forget what the hell he said because it just doesn't make sense. You have to be a complete and utter fucking moron. But my point here is, I have video evidence. I have paid attention for a very long time. And I have video evidence that literally, frame by frame, breaks down the so-called insurrection and literally proves that it was set up, it was an inside job with the FBI. Literally, a video, frame by frame. A regular, everyday Joe citizen is using his brain and an internet connection with a cell phone and could literally break it down. But yet today, people think that these three-letter agencies, CIA, FBI, every police officer, every judge, every lawyer, everybody in state and federal government positions of power that have far more resources, far more manpower, far better technology, far more money. Can't put that together? How about this? Media. They're the ones who are supposed to have all those tools, right? They're supposed to be like the fourth leg of the fourth branch of protection for the people. So if they have all these resources, all this money, all this manpower, all these tools, but yet a regular everyday citizen with an internet connection, a cell phone, and a brain could put it together, and you want to believe that they can't? You want to believe that they have no idea? You have got to be out of your fucking mind. Let me go even further. See, we believe this predictive programming in everything we say and everything we see. Yet, while you're sitting and waiting, and more children are being hurt, and more children are dying, and more people, innocent people, are being harmed, you just want to trust the plan. Isn't it ironic how you sit and wait for the superhero just like they trained you from the get-go to wait for the superhero? The Batman, the Superman, the Iron Man, the He-Man, the Super Trump. What you all don't seem to recognize is Hitler actually wasn't the problem. Hitler didn't come to power by himself. Hitler came to power by the people. the people who he manipulated through their emotions to believe that he was their leader. And then once they get into that state of mind, and it's a top-down system, and you follow your orders, well, then we get to how the nurses killed the babies and euthanized them and starved them. Yes, women, nurses, because all nurses back in the day pretty much were women in those days. The majority. The motherly figure, the woman who brings all life forms into the world, all human beings, the nurturer, was so manipulated that they were killing children and literally thought they were doing the right thing. That's how easy it is. And there's so many scientific studies that prove this, people. There's so many you could look up where a regular everyday Joe puts on a white lab coat and they have an actor come in, stand behind a wall, and then they pick a random fucking person from the street and they say, hey, you want to take this test, do this study? All right, you got to read these questions and you're going to press this little button. And the person on the other side of the wall, if they answer the question wrong, you zap them. And then they do it and they go through and they zap them. And the guy's screaming. He's an actor on the other side of the wall, but he's screaming bloody murder. You're killing me. I can't take it anymore. And the random person starts freaking out and says, I can't do this. Turns to the person with the white lab coat. And the white lab coat person says, I'm responsible for the person on the other side of the wall. Don't worry about it. And every single contestant, literally, hypothetically, killed the person on the other side of the wall. The point is, the person who they trusted wasn't a doctor, wasn't a scientist. They were somebody just like them from the street, wearing a white lab coat. Because that's how the brain works. There's so many studies. They've done it with monkeys. They're shooting water at them. Putting a ladder in there. They got to climb up the ladder to get the banana. As soon as they get the banana, they get shot with water. And then eventually, all the other monkeys start beating the shit out of the one. And then they don't ever go up the ladder. And then, brand new monkey came on. Never seen the ladder, never seen the water. And as soon as he goes to climb up that ladder, the rest of the monkeys beat the shit out of him. And then he doesn't climb up the ladder. But yet, he never even knew what the water was or anything. It's the same thing. So everybody seriously needs to wake up. You seriously need to start thinking deeper. You seriously need to go study the brain and how it works, the fight or flight response, what that does to your immune system. Like, there's videos out there, like The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton, who left the medical industry years ago, who literally brought epigenetics and all this stuff years ago. And the scientific community didn't want to accept him then. But yet, he leaves a couple years later, and they basically steal his work. And they take the credit for it. You could go watch his video, Biology of Belief, and it's not just about belief. It's about everything. And it's so interesting because he talks about the mind, the government of the body. The government of the 50 trillion cells in your body. And what he says at the very beginning is so ironic. Because if you got the government of the United States of America, he says, in your brain, in your thoughts, well, then you will be sick. And obviously, he's not teaching it in America whenever he made that video. It's clearly seen. Biology Belief, Dr. Bruce Lipton. He's wearing a light blue shirt. It's a 2.5 hour lecture. I recommend everybody go watch it. Like I said 2 years ago. If you watch that, if you watch The Social Dilemma, and then you go watch Joe Rogan's interview of the person who brought The Social Dilemma, the whistleblower, who blew whistles on the social media moguls. If you watch those 3 videos, and then also watch Unnatural Selection, you will see very clearly what is taking place. You could also go watch another documentary called Curing Corrupted, The Killing Nurses of the Third Reich. And when you watch that documentary, people, you will literally see the past 2 years of your life right there on video. The same playbook, the same actions, people, places, and things taking place. And you will be astonished. Then you could go even further and go listen to John F. Kennedy's last national address to the newspaper industry, 1961, Waldorf Authority. And you will listen to what he says. A ruthless conspiracy advancing around the globe, 1961. Like a well-oiled machine built of military, diplomatic, scientific, economic, political, all human sphere of activity. Every human sphere of activity, you could literally see everything just by watching that video. And then ask yourself, why wouldn't the news put that out? Why wouldn't your news industry, any of them, left or right, be playing that video for you? And then link it up with Yuri Bezmenov, Ideological Subversion, 1987, Russian defector. You know what? You could find these videos still to this day on YouTube. I was putting them together in chronological order and uploading them to YouTube, and I got banned. 5 accounts. And now, today, there's multiple accounts repeating the same video, but they're not linked in chronological order. Isn't that interesting? So even those people learned that you can't put them in order, but you can watch them separately, and people started uploading more copies and more copies and more copies to try and get you to the truth. The problem is they want you to connect the dots. And the longer it takes for more people to awaken to the reality of the world they are building, helping build, like right now, charging people for free information because of censorship. You don't find that ironic that there's censorship happening, the people are telling you about it, but they're asking you to pay for a membership to get the information? So what matters more? The community, like they're talking about? The country, like they swear to? Or their pocket? Did the 17 and 18-year-old men that fought for our freedoms get a dime? Ask for a dime when they gave you that freedom? They paid with their fucking lives. And then guess how we repaid them? They dodge bullets. They come back mangled. And they get, some VA health care and a couple of dollars. Most of them are living on the street because of the trauma. But yet if you dodge a football, if you dodge a baseball, if you dodge a basketball with pads on, you get millions. Everybody needs to wake the fuck up. It's so easy to see. Just use logic. No bird flies with one wing. It needs both wings to fly and a brain to control it. Good cop, bad cop. Emotions. There is not a single president since the beginning of presidents that has had the best policies or the best rules. It's just good cop, bad cop. And the people who stay in office for 30 plus fucking years are a gang. So it doesn't matter who you put in there. They're going in there with people who have generational wealth and generational power and control, and simply could destroy anybody. Clearly, we've seen that with Trump. It's so clear. It doesn't matter what you say. As soon as you go in, you got to make a choice, just like any other gang. You're up against a whole bunch of people, and they either take you out, defame you, or destroy you. Destroy your name. Erase you. What's your choice going to be after you work so hard to get into that position? If everybody knew what John F. Kennedy said in 1961, he gave a speech to the West Point cadets graduating that year. You can watch Jocko podcast. I believe it's 291. Yeah, number 291. Where he's interviewing a gentleman who has been in the military his whole life, all the way up to the FBI. And he stepped down. He could have stayed. His name is Mike. He stepped down. And guess what he's teaching today? Survival to civilians. That's his business. That's his passion. He left the FBI to do that. That's what that podcast was about. But at the beginning, he's reading a speech that John F. Kennedy said to the graduating class in 1961. Now, I want this to sink in here. If you got away with killing the president, and you knew all the information that he was telling you, and you just watched the strongest country in the world's president get assassinated, and they got away with it, do you think you would open your mouth? Do you think they pushed that cause after that? Probably not, because it's very clear what fear does to a mind. It's clearly seen in the past 2 years what fear will do to somebody, especially when they don't know about it. So why you sit and wait, why you trust the plan, you need to understand something, because all these people trusting a plan are saying they believe in Jesus Christ. I want you to ask yourself this other question. I wear a cross every day, so don't get it twisted. Been wearing a cross since I was 3 years old. It was gifted to me. I've read all the religious books, not just one. Because we learn at a very young age, strength in numbers, strength in having multiple perspectives. If I go to war with one bullet, probably not going to win. If I go to war with one soldier, probably not going to win. So I can't go to war or have the knowledge of just one book. I have to have multiple. And I have to have multiple perspectives. So that's what gives me the ability to see something that some people don't see. I would like you to think, just like I said, if you knew about John F. Kennedy, do you think you would have spoke up afterwards? Have your life taken from you as easy as it was? Let's look at that for Jesus. The followers of Jesus that just watched him get crucified. Do you think they spoke out? You think they told anybody in the population that they believed in him? Do you think they felt nice if they had a child, if they had a father, if they had anybody in their family that was crucified, whipped, destroyed, nailed to a cross? Do you think they would want to see that same image worn around the neck of every human being around them? To remember that image? Do you think you, if you were nailed to a cross, crucified, do you think you would want your child to wear that image around your neck to remind them of that image every day? Probably not. But, what if they did rise up and the people who did crucify him because they didn't believe in him, when they rose up, they started wearing that cross to fight against the people that don't believe in him? The same ones who have been playing this game since those times and were behind the Holocaust. The same group of people who do not believe in Jesus. But my point of this was, Jesus died for your sins, correct? Did you ever think about thinking he died for your sins to sit there and wait and do nothing? He died because of your sins, sitting and waiting. He died and was willing to die for his beliefs. That's the lesson. That's the truth. He wasn't afraid. This is what I know. Because that's what it takes to not be afraid to do whatever it takes, even if your life depends on it. To not sit and wait. Do something. Speak. Take action. Stand in your truth. The metaphors are all there. But the problem is, the first predictive programming that everybody wants to neglect were books. The keeper of man's conscience. And it's the same thing. Good cop, bad cop. Without up, you can't have down. Without left, you can't have right. Without hot, you can't have cold. Without cold, you can't have hot. Without the sun, you can't have light. Without the moon, you can't have light. You can't have dark and know what light is. You can't have light and know what dark is. You need the both. In America, you have everybody talking about all this Satanistic shit, this, that, and the third. Yes, I believe it's taking place. Yes, there is a evil. But in America, the freedom to believe and practice your religion doesn't just go for your Christianity, your Catholic, your Islam. I don't care if it's Thomas the Train or if it's Satanism. In order to have freedom of religion, you have to allow anybody to practice their religion freely. As long as it doesn't harm anybody. physically, mentally, spiritually. So if people practice this fucked up shit, as long as they're not going out and doing anything, there's nothing we can do about it. But what I notice is a lot of people that went into that ended up finding God, ending up finding the truth, ended up finding natural law, not man's law. Because that's the game. To keep you fighting with the other people. Religion, race, color, creed, culture, gender, good cop, bad cop, for cops, not for cops. It's divide and conquer, people. And the bankers are the ones behind it all. They stole the gold, gave you fake paper, turned that fake paper into quadrillions to now buy the whole monopoly board. And now that they have the whole monopoly board, they own everything you eat, everything you wear, every single thing around you, the cell phone, the computer, the fucking gadgets inside of it, the microchips, everything, people. They own it all. And if we turned out the power tomorrow, how many people do you think know how to survive on this planet? The first tree that got cut down from that piece of paper with ink started destroying the planet. And then everything that came after that also destroyed the planet. And it destroyed the people. Because today, people can't even provide for themselves without the paper with ink. And if you turn out the power, just imagine what would happen. They own it all. There's one last thing to own, and that's your soul. Right now, a lot of people are giving it freely without even realizing it. There's gonna come a point in time in our history going forward that people are gonna look back and they're gonna say, how the fuck did I miss that? How did I miss that? Because your emotions blocked your logic. Because your lack of attention, your shortest attention span. Because you didn't want to take the time to read books, watch interviews, long-form podcasts, to be informed. This is the information age. Matter of fact, this person on Instagram, you can find them at Take Naps. Bobby Sauce, I don't know, I don't want to fuck up his last name, but Bobby Sauce, Take Naps. He just did a Gettysburg Address video. And everything he said in it is the truth. Literal truth that people need to understand and realize. What we say today is going to be cemented in digital history for unimaginable amounts of time. Billions of years on a little tiny microchip. So if you're sitting and waiting, that's going to be what it is. All these posts, that's what's going to be your history. All this voting, or MAGA, or red versus blue, that's going to be your history. Henry Kissinger literally sat down with Donald Trump and literally said, an opportunity to make a one peaceful world order. I could literally connect all these dots and see it so very clearly. But this one peaceful world order is not going to be the world you see today or pre-2019. It's going to be a very different world. They are prepping you for the magic world, just like they prepped everybody into believing you want to be outside of this world in make-believe land when you die, instead of wanting to be here now and living in heaven on earth. The false reality is living outside of the earth. And now it's turning into living in the metaverse. The movies, the predictive programming. It's in everything, people. Everything. This is a spiritual, ancient, holy war of good versus evil. And you don't need a book to know the difference between good versus evil, because it's given to you by the Creator, whoever he may be, to whoever wants to believe their Creator is. It doesn't matter. As long as they believe, it doesn't matter. So when you want to hold it against Islam, you want to hold it against this one or that one, Satan is this one, that one, you're only doing the opposite of what the metaphors were taught. Love thy neighbor. Until somebody's actually trying to harm you, which they are, everything else is just words. Actions speak louder than words. So now, having this judgment, because the news told you, having this judgment, because what happened in Pakistan, Iran, and all these other places, because the news made you believe that it was Muslim people who wore scarves and this, that, and they're beating their women. They don't want to let them not wear a headdress. You don't even understand their book, because you don't want to read it. There's nothing wrong with reading it, but what you will learn actually makes sense, and that the women want to be covered. And that's another part of the country. Who the fuck are we to go over there and change their beliefs? But because the news made you believe certain things, you believe it. There's fucking radicals in every religion, people. There's radicals in every walk of life. Every race, color, creed, culture. Because they weren't nourished. They weren't given the tools. They never had the opportunity. It's just natural human behavior. And if we keep playing this game, believing in a superhero or one person and not ourselves, keep believing that we need somebody else to do these things. You need to vote in and give power to somebody seeking power. Well, who's going to run this or who's going to run that? How about everybody knows that has a child, you're never going to be financially ready, you're never going to be safe, you just have the child and it all seems to work out. You do it. You just do it. There's so many examples I could give. And there's so many pieces of evidence everywhere. For people to not be able to understand that there's a lot of people in power right now that know exactly what they are doing, because it's not rocket science. It's amazing and heartbreaking all at the same time to witness. So seriously.
I'll show you this one. They just went in this one down here with a lot of boxes. I can't cafe. I just went into that one. We've seen probably a dozen agents or more roaming through the hallways here. And we got word that the FBI may be at Mr. Cassidy's house as well. No one is saying why they're here, what they're looking for. Lawmakers aren't in session, so they're not here. A lot of the staff's not even here. I'm told some of them don't come in until around 11 o'clock when they're not in session. So
their staff members don't even have to come in till 11 o'clock. I want you to think about how many people even know how many days a week these people work, what their hours are, how many days a year they work, compared to how many days and hours the people that run the world work, that fix your toilets, that keep your sewage going, that keep your trains moving, that keep your planes flying, that keep your food coming. And then compare the money, the vacations, the time spent with their families. And yet, you think they don't know that? Obviously, they don't care. They're sitting on $40,000 furniture. But we want to talk about the homeless and the sick and the health care. If a real human being that truly wants to help another human being, they will say, give me a Staples chair. I'll sit on that. Let's use this money to help somebody. It's very clear, people. It's very clear.
We get to this end of the hallway and we look to the right. That's going to be Glenn Cassidy's office that the agents are standing outside of. That was one right there.
I didn't know they made pages for.
Is everybody ready? I'll start with a statement and we'll get our questions here in a minute. Since becoming speaker, I was contacted by federal authorities regarding an ongoing investigation related to the former speaker's office. I have been and I will continue to be in full cooperation with the authorities as they continue their investigation. On the advice of both legal and ethics counsel, I am placing everyone that was subject to the execution of today's search warrant on administrative leave until further notice. A personal note before we take questions. This has been a trying week for our country, and this will be a difficult time for our state as well as we go down this road. Personally, these are our friends and colleagues of ours that we worked with for many years. It's important to remember that this is just the start of the investigation and the process and not the end. Today does not necessarily imply guilt. I have spoken to the governor, the lieutenant governor. I will remain transparent and communicate as more becomes known throughout the...
Now remember what I said at the beginning of this fucking video. Please, please, please. Does the media come to your house to serve a search warrant? Is it proper? Is it professional for the FBI to raid somebody with the media? Is that good in your man's law judicial system? How would you feel if they did that to you so they could frame a case around you by manipulating the minds of the people when they edit their video? Would that be just? Probably not.